whole brand new file.
Just because, too, you can do anything just because.
This game was the last straw.
I see your point, but I still disagree.
Massive RPG zombie game.
Okay, I didn't know we had agreed to that.
From a consumer point of view,
Because it's never going to change unless we take a stand.
supposed to be the parents' responsibility.
How is that fair?
We're not going to talk about
Well,
that.
beggars can't be choosers, but I wish I could be.
Link 584.
Voice Go.
To podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another To Podcast with I'm Voice Go.
With I'm Voice Go.
Damn right.
You mean with Voice Go?
Nope, with I'm Voice Go.
And I'm Link 584. And today we're going to be talking about classic game appreciation in today's youth. And by today's youth, I mean the growing, coming up youth. People today that are probably 16 or younger, more specifically 10
New
and younger.
gamers.
Yeah, the ones that are 10 and younger is the prime.
You don't make it so complicated. Just younger gamers.
Well, we
you
have to
know.
say, well, we're younger gamers. We're 21.
Okay, younger gamers than us.
Yes, and there's
Just,
two. And there's two categories we're going to be talking about: around 16 and younger, and 10 and under.
Okay, I didn't know we had agreed to that, but
Well, there's a huge difference between those two age groups.
all right.
Clearly.
Anyways,
So-
all right, whatever.
Well, the classic game appreciation we're talking about is we grew up with NES and SNES, and I'm able to look at the graphics, and I'm able to look at how games are created and appreciate what they truly are. I can say, hey, this is Castlevania, and this is really
so
fun.
I heard you like Castlevania.
And I could say, this is Super Mario World, this is really fun. And I could say, hey, this is Kirby's Dream Land, this is really fun. You know, you're playing it on your TV, with your SNES controller, your SNES controller, your NES one,
Okay,
the
so
square thing.
basically, my thoughts are if, the younger gamers, under 16 of any age, is going to look at my favorite game personally, is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And are they going to appreciate just how amazing that game really is?
Yeah, because there's, I think, two sides to this here in terms of the old games, the old two-dimensional games. The thing about them is they don't age the way that 3D games do. Those games, I think, they'll be able to appreciate because 2D games, as few as they are, they're still being made today, and the graphics are only so much enhanced. They're still... They stay the same. 3D games, though, like Ocarina of Time, you can see the polygons, you can see the edging, you can see how unsmooth Link is and the terrain is, and how low-res the textures are. As we go into more advanced tools to create these games, the old ones, the old 3D games, they're not aging so well as the 2D ones. So I think that's not only are we talking about the kids here not appreciating them, but would they appreciate the old 2D games, but then not the 3D ones? There's so many different ways we can go with this.
Okay, what I'm thinking is I literally grew up playing Zelda Ocarina of Time. That was one of my favorite games as a child, and it's still one of my favorite games today. However, Link over here, Link 584, loves playing the 2D version of Zelda, the previous games to Ocarina of Time.
Like A Link to the Past. And,
right,
yeah.
which I didn't grow up with, so I don't really appreciate it. I can't really sit down and play it. I think it's kind of annoying. I don't know. I just don't have that passion for it.
Because you didn't really grow up with those games.
I didn't grow up, with those games. I didn't have SNES or, the first few Nintendo games. I didn't have stuff like that. So, when I grew up playing the Ocarina of Time, it was amazing, and I can still remember exactly what I was doing and what part I was at and such and such, and it's like a classic, but I can appreciate Pac-Man and Jumpman and Donkey Kong and all those games, but like when I think about the 2D versus 3D, and it just doesn't quite do it for me.
Yeah, so you can appreciate a couple classic titles, but for the most part, a lot of them you'd you appreciate like how they were made and all that stuff, but you don't. But the game itself, you really can't sit down and play.
Yeah, I can't. So what I'm curious, is if kids today are, playing these 3D, like not, I don't know, 3D, I don't know what to call them, like the new generation games, if you will, Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty, are they playing all these games where everything looks phenomenal, and then look at a Nintendo 64 game like, Mario Kart Racing, for example, and just say, wow, this looks like shit.
Yeah, you have a 2-dimensional kart driver on a 3-dimensional plane, or you have something like Ocarina of Time, and you say, wow, this looks so unrealistic.
You know, are they going to look at a side-scroller?
And there's because and then the side-scroll stuff, the 2D stuff, that brings an interesting point, because, the 2D games are still being made today, but not nearly to the extent that they were. I feel like that they're going extinct.
Limbo was a great side-scroller for the new games. So, they could make some really great games with great graphics and still have it be a side-scroller,
I think 2D games are becoming more of like a cult phenomenon, if anything, because there's a lot of them being made every year. They're not necessarily going extinct. I didn't mean that like so literally, because there are tons of them made every year, 2D games. But some of these I never hear about. They just don't get the media coverage that they probably deserve. So, you really want to look up independent developers to see a lot of this stuff. Some people in like the music industry say, yeah, I support independent rock artists and things like that, or some people say, yeah, I appreciate independent filmmakers. Well, there's a huge thing out there for independent game creators, especially with these like indie bundles that have been appearing online and things like that they're finally surfacing up, and that's wonderful. I think they're making a resurgence there. I think 2D games, a lot of people they're gonna play these games, they're gonna have a lot of fun with them, and a lot of the graphics aren't too different from their past counterparts. So I feel that that'll also dig up a lot of old 2-dimensional games that people will be able to appreciate. Because while Foisco here, she may not really, go for 2D games almost period, just a couple here and there. There are some people that they'll look and they'll grow up with 2-dimensional games for the PC, and they'll go for downloadable titles such as Limbo. And then they'll want to get an NES and SNES to enhance their 2-dimensional library. So if anything, it's the 3D N64 games and the original PlayStation 1 games that are going to be under heavy scrutiny by some of these gamers. Or at least that's what we're wondering. If you're 10 or younger, that's where the biggest reactions I think will be, because they're going to completely grow up on just pure, beautiful worlds with no little polygons showing. It's a completely different world in the past 10 years.
Gaming has made great strides, and the things that they can allow you to do in some video games, like Just Cause 2, you can do anything just because, and like it almost kind of feels diminished, like it's no longer like a gaming community, if that makes any sense to you. When somebody says they're into gaming, I immediately think of, Mario, Super Mario World, and, Ocarina of Time, I've mentioned that, and Yoshi's Island, that's, true gaming, just these great classic titles. And to me, that will always be...
Yeah, going around, playing your Banjo-Kazooie and all
just
that.
Those few titles makes up the entire gaming definition, for me, anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's these new things, Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty, and that just seems more like a life simulator without the life part,
Well, it seems like you take something like these and they're very simple-minded, I guess would be the thing, but a lot of these platformer things, there's some people who say, oh, you're just jumping around. Well, you're solving puzzles, you're doing all this stuff, but with Call of Duty and stuff, it's really fun. It's action-packed. I love going as the sniper, getting the headshots, right? And it's a lot of fun. But I feel like at least, what's publicly seen half the time is when you think of gamers, you just think instantly now of today's gamers as the first-person shooter genre. When I think of myself as a gamer, I think, okay, I do it all. I do platforming, I do action, I do adventure, I do first-person shooters, I do MMORPGs, regular RPGs, the Mario Kart Racing here and there. do everything from Skyrim to, the original Mario. I cover it all on all platforms, and that's what gaming is. You're diverse. But when I think of a lot of today's gamers, I think of just first-person shooters.
Boring.
Like, it's boring in terms, for me, like, I don't know what you mean by boring. I mean, boring, like, where's the mix-up? It's kind of like just watching one type of movie all the time. Yeah, I like seeing emotional films. I like seeing wonderful Lord of the Rings, true blood, RPG, massive scale movies. And then all the way down to something like Love Actually. I mean, I cover all the genres. What's the fun in just watching one thing?
Yeah,
playing one
it's
thing?
like, one day you're in the mood to laugh, and so you get a comedy, and one day you're in the mood to cry, so you get a tragedy.
But then we sign on to our Xbox. What do we get every day? Friend invite to
Call of Duty and Battlefield and
Halo.
It just where's the game and all that?
Like,
it's basically like, oh, play this game so that you can go and kill all your friends. Ha 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 ha.
I mean, like, it's a lot of fun, but I mean,
it can be fun.
It's like every day there's the message for you want to play some form of FPS. It's like you look. I mean, obviously you're not going to be getting any invites for the other wonderful single player games and stuff like that. But when the majority of your lists are always playing this, but then you also have to wonder, like, okay, are we just being overexposed to stuff because you add your friends from games that are multiplayer, so of course they're going to be doing the multiplayer games. So when you look at your list, it's not like I'm going and playing, let's just pretend Final Fantasy X was on Xbox, and we sign on, and we're getting our achievements, we're not making any friends while we're playing Final Fantasy X. So maybe we're just being overexposed to it. And that's maybe what I feel a lot of people are feeling. Because when I read all sorts of comments online, and I go to sites and all this stuff, I see other people saying, oh, well, it seems like FPS is everywhere and all this stuff, like we've been talking in our podcast so far. But could it just be because of something as simple as what our friend list consists of? Right.
Well, I mean, I have quite the friends list of, people who, do Call of Duty and Battlefield and, they do whatever. But then the good game comes out like Skyrim. Woo, Skyrim, yay. And, people are excited to play that. And, other people are playing racing games. And then they're playing, there's a whole different diverse community of different games. But it's like, if you're playing Call of Duty and you're prestiging and that's all you do and you have no life, then you're not a gamer. You're just obsessed.
Yeah, you're just playing one game or one genre. I consider a gamer someone that partakes in 3 or more different genres. Because a lot of the FPS gamers, then they go and play their sports games. And I include racing in this just because I feel like, in real life, people are like, the high action stuff, then they like sports. And then like, it's all within a certain realm. But then, of course, if you're like a geek, you, of course, like the like the RPGs and being your own character. And you like going on adventures and doing stuff. But you have to be someone who can really appreciate all realms. Platforming, RPGs, adventure, action, and FPSs, mix everything up. I consider a gamer someone that appreciates all genres for what they are, and plays something from most genres in that sense, 3 or more different genres.
I agree. And also, good point here, what is with, Call of Duty coming out with a new game every year? Do we really need a new war game every single year?
Well, that will be a topic for another time, I think, because that we could go on for that.
Oh, it drives me nuts. So it's just...
We're just gonna have to leave that for another time.
Oh.
Once again, that's another thing to add to the list of topics. I mean, but to wrap this one up, really, it's the appreciation thing. Is I really wonder if there's going to be a difference of, well, first of all, what is the appreciation level on old games going to be from new gamers today? And is that appreciation also going to be, if there is any, split between 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional games? Because 2-dimensional games, they don't necessarily show their age. 3-dimensional games do. And I'm sure you all know what I mean. Ocarina of Time, you see the polygons. 2-dimensional games, the sprites are still square like they are today. I mean, come on, you put a lot of things on one screen, a lot of pixels to make up an image, I mean, that's how today's games two-dimensional are. It's the same thing. You can just have extreme two-dimensional high-res games if you want today, but a lot of them being made are in the form of old style, and they're very popular independent games that are revealing this style, just like in their 16 and 8-bit counterparts, and people are loving them and eating them up.
I wonder if in a couple years people are not going to know just how awesome Pac-Man is, or Mario Kart 64, or Donkey Kong 64, another one of my favorites, or even oh goodness, Pokemon Puzzle League. That was a game I grew up on, and Paper Mario. Is anybody even gonna know what this game is? These games are.
I think. Well, I
in
think
5 years.
I think that's a very interesting list, though, because I think it's something like Paper Mario. I think everyone's still gonna know what Paper Mario, like the 1,000-year-old door, is, and then so everyone will still know what regular Paper Mario is. And you take something like, what was some of the other games you said?
How about Diddy Kart? Diddy
Kong Racing.
Diddy Kong, yeah, that's it.
I think people. There's always racing games, new ones being made, new Mario Karts and all that stuff. That the old ones, of course, will be forgotten, even the old Mario parties and stuff. But I think some of the titles that you said in there, like Paper Mario, that's way too current, and that's a nice looking 3D game. That for the type of world it is, that really won't age. Yoshi's Island is a two-dimensional game. That one's not going to age.
The Addams Family.
See something. Well, the 2D games though, I feel will still be appreciated because of the same reason that hundreds of thousands of two-dimensional games are still being sold, and they're on the same quality graphic-wise on the old games.
Name a two-dimensional right now.
What, like current game?
Yeah.
You mean something like Limbo or some of these independent games from the indie bundles? Almost all the independent indie bundles are two-dimensional games. I think all of them are.
Okay.
And
name
so that's
one
at least
console.
12 on console.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's a whole marketplace dedicated to them. I just haven't bought any. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know that they're there. And there's even an independent section for the ones that have made it on the PC that are like Castle Crashers.
Oh, okay.
That's
all
two-dimensional,
right, well,
but that was made with Flash, which is a more current day thing. But the thing is though, is that there's games with beautiful quality that are made with sprites and all that stuff by independent developers that are selling hundreds of thousands of copies. So two-dimensional is not going away. It's just going away on the handhelds more than anything.
I think it's all going to fade eventually. And, Call of Duty and Battlefield and Halo will be all that's left.
That's a very bleak future. You think everything will fade except for those 3 FPSs.
Pretty much.
I think two-dimensional games, they're not going anywhere. I think there'll still be an appreciation for the old ones because they're still being made today. Because they don't age. Two-dimensional games really don't age in the same way that three-dimensional does. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
So I think, if anything, the N64 and the PlayStation 1 and 2, they're going to really see sometimes, even the GameCube, too. All 4 of those are going to eventually see their time. But more than anything, the PlayStation 1, the Xbox, the original one, forgot about it. I didn't mean to. I just didn't like it. The first original Xbox, the PlayStation 1, and the N64. Those are the 3 that, more than anything, that I think are going to have a hard time being remembered by certain generations. Because the last and foremost note is, I grew up with these games. Final Fantasy VII was a game I did not grow up with, right? Final Fantasy VII is a game I did not grow up with.
Okay.
And so, I go back and play it, and it's on the same graphical level as the old games I used to play. But I have a hard time playing it because of the graphics. What the hell does that say? That's really weird. Now that's a really... I don't even know how to tackle that area. So there is a lot of different ways that this subject can continue on, and that people could probably discuss in the comments.
Okay. All right. I guess. Yeah, sure. Don't forget the classics. Pac-Man is awesome. Donkey Kong is awesome. Jumpman, now Mario, is awesome. Zelda will forever be the best game on the freaking planet.
We gotta pass these, if anything, not necessarily your fandom, but pass along what true games were
really
and still
all
are.
about.
Like, because I mean, they're not being made today, true games, but show them that they're out there and open the library to younger kids. I'm happy to know that our library of games, there's so many possibilities. It's so huge and open-minded for us, and so many games we've already played. Pass this along to our kids, just like you would your values. Pass along these gaming values. Don't let them be forgotten. Because I'm not worried about certain 2D games such as Pac-Man or Jumpman or anything like that. But in a certain way, the classic arcade games like those, I think those are.
Ooh, Space Invaders!
Yeah, I think arcade games is even a whole nother realm from the traditional 2D games. Arcade games themselves, we can't let that history die as well. Arcade games are becoming something that will be out of business one day. And they're not all on the consoles in the past. So we gotta find a way to teach kids history about those. Just like
if
VHS
you're a true gamer, you'll teach everyone you have ever met about all these awesome games. You'll convert them.
You'll find a way.
You will find a way.
Not even to convert them, but just to educate them and show them that they're there. So when people complain or something, you can say, hey, you have a lot of these great games from the past. Give them a chance. Because they were good. There were a lot of bad ones, but there was a lot of good ones.
I agree.
Amen.
It's like a story, like a family history story that you pass on for generations.
I remember when we played a game when you were a yellow circle chasing ghosts. I love that little comedy bit by that one guy. He's like, don't even get me started on the game with the frog.
Oh yeah, the one where he gets hit by the cars.
Yes. Or Mrs. the Lily Pad. Exactly. It's these things we gotta pass along. So, please leave comments discussing the subject below. We'd love to hear anything from any side of this topic.
Yeah, tell us your age and tell us if you appreciate, the old classic games, if you have a favorite, or if you're even a new kid and, your library only consists of first-person shooters. Just let us know. We'll suggest some great games for you.
If you can, just leave a comment with your age, your gender, and whatever you want to say about the subject. Whether you just want to talk about some of your favorite games of the past, even if that has no real significance, you just want to let it all out, do it. We'll listen. Or if you want to talk more about the actual subject.
Make a response video.
Yeah, make a response
video.
We'd
love to watch it.
This is a very interesting subject to us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Alrighty.
So this is the podcast, and I'm Link584.
And I'm Voice-Go Crazy.
Voice-Go Crazy?
I am.
Aren't you just Voice-Go?
Nope, I'm Voice-Go Crazy.